Yeah, what's happening? We about to bring that action. Gotta hold it down for my Seattle Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. We going beneath the waves. Get it hype, step onto the ice. Ready for some action. Release the Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. Going beneath the waves.
Welcome, everyone, to the Beneath the Waves podcast, your weekly source of all things Seattle Kraken and beyond. I'm Alex.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Matt.
And not joining us this week is Derek, but he will be back next week. So it's episode 23, and we've got a great show for you this week, including all the latest Seattle Kraken news, a breakdown of last week's games, a check-in with Coachella Valley, and we'll take a look around the hockey world in the sound table. Heather, why don't you let us know what happened this week with the Seattle Kraken?
All right. So I have quite a bit of news this week. I'm going to start with injury updates. So this has resolved itself, which I'm really glad, but Jaden Schwartz and Ellie Tolvanen were day-to-day and didn't play in the Canucks game. They were back in regular jerseys Friday, April 4th, and then Coach Baalsma said both were a game-time decision for the San Jose game on Saturday, and lucky for us, both were back in the lineup for that game. So happy for that, because we never want our squids injured, but I also think at this time of year, if they need extra time out, please stay out and be healthy. But I was glad to see them back. And with that came some roster moves. So first, Ryan Winterton was called up on an emergency basis because of the Schwartz and Tolvanen injuries. He did play in the Canucks game. He had one shot on goal, and then he was sent back down the next day. So overall, it's good because it meant the two players were back getting healthy. But I did love that he was the call up. You all know that I'm rooting for him, so really happy that it was Ryan Winterton. And he does make a difference when he's out there. You do notice him, so it was really fun to see him. The Kraken reassigned forward Oscar Fisker Molgaard from HV71 from the Swedish Hockey League to the Coachella Valley Firebirds. So he did play one game this season with Coachella, and then he went back to the Swedish Hockey League. So, and just a reminder too, over the summer in June, the Kraken agreed to terms with him, a 3-year entry-level contract at $950 AAV. He actually was a second-round draft pick in 2023. He's 20 years old, but he is a defensive forward, and he has just a great two-way game. So he's been playing really, really well in the Swedish Hockey League. So I'm excited about this. I think this is going to be really fun to see him finish out this season with Coachella. And in other news, too, Berkeley Catton and Tyson Jugnath were named Western Conference First-Team All-Stars. So that's really cool. We love to see these younger players kind of, being noticed and recognized. Maddie Beniers is expected to play for USA Hockey at the upcoming IIHF Men's World Championship, which takes place in May in Sweden and Denmark. So that's also cool. And one last piece of news is that Jared McCann just notched his 20th goal this season, making it 4 straight seasons with 20 or more goals for him. And he's the 10th player in NHL history to do that in the first 4 years of a franchise. So, we have said Jared has just been a little bit struggling this season, but I'm so happy to see him, really, really come into his own like this last half of this season. He's been playing so well. So to hit that milestone is really cool. So with that, that's all the news.
So for our games this week, we had 3 different matchups, starting with game 75 against the Dallas Stars. This one, unfortunately, was a 3-1 loss. And then we had 2 very strong showings. First up against the Vancouver Canucks with a 5-0 shutout win for Joey, and then follow that up with a 5-1 win against the San Jose Sharks. I'm not going to lie to you, I was sweating pretty good off the start of that Stars rematch. Capo Caco opening the scoring early had me very hyped up, especially since I scored a Sasquatch point off that, so shout out to Mike at Sasquatch NHL. But as soon as the Stars answered that goal almost immediately after, and then again, I thought we were in for a long, long night. Luckily, this game couldn't have been farther from the game that we had experienced last week. As much as I tend to jump on Groove for his poor performances, which I definitely thought we were in for after the first 3 minutes of this game, I have to give him some props for how he handled this game. This had to be one of his best performances of the season, saving 28 out of 30 shots for a 9.33 save percentage, and that's something that I think we really have to celebrate. And another thing to celebrate is Capo Caco hitting his career high for points at 41 following his goal in this game. So let's sign that guy now. Let's stop dragging our feet and sign him now, since he has clearly been a very good fit for this team. Another very exciting game against Vancouver, and I feel this is the case for all of our Canucks games this season. They all seem to be pretty exciting. The goal scorers for this one are quite the variety. We have Mikey Acemont, who I saw Sasquatch call Ace, and I'm going to fully endorse this nickname. I really like it. I don't know if he came up with it or it's a locker room thing, but Ace, I'm going to stick to. Ace continues to make a case for keeping a spot on this team next season. Chandler Stevenson with an amazingly casual snipe past Demko. Shane Wright, we always love it. Berkey, good stuff. Love to see that. And we always love a Lars goal to prove to Alex that his extension was worth it. Most hype part of this game for me is Canner having a 3-point night, and we all love a Joey shout out all around. This was a very, very fun game. This third game we had this week is how we should have played against the Sharks all season. Another offensive showcase for the Kraken. Canner continues having a very strong end to his season. He had the opening goal, which, not to brag, was another Sasquatch point for me. He scored the 5th goal of the game, and he had notched an assist as well. This had him cracking 20 goals, as Heather talked about earlier in the show, and he's creeping in on the 60 points for the season, which is something we love to see out of Canner. Again, I will ask, where has this Berkey been? He has, I believe if I did this right, 11 points in the last 10 games, which is absolutely unheard of him on the Kraken. Where has this player been the whole time? Hopefully he's shaken off whatever he's had holding him down, and he's back in full force right now. Stevie cracks 50 points for the 4th straight season with a goal in this game, only 1 point behind his total of last season, which is awesome. We love seeing that and maybe proving down those Stevenson naysayers a little bit. I could watch that effortless wrist shot of his all day. He had 2 very similar goals this week, and they are just awesome to see. Schwartzy's rocket of a shot coming back from injury had me very hyped up. He just crossed that blue line and hammered it as hard as he possibly could. Finally, seeing Tolvey serve some knuckle sandwiches along with Rigg and Hayden getting tossed at the end of the game was quite the note to go on. How are you guys feeling about these games?
All right, so Dallas Stars game. I expected a loss here, to be totally honest, especially after the performance of the Stars last Saturday. I don't know, we need to dwell too much on this one, but Grew seemed to be more confident. He came up with some really big saves. I was really happy to see that. There was a little bit of a different line. There was Schwartz with Beniers and Capo Caco, and that actually looked really good. Caco hit a new career high in this one in points during the game. He had 41 points now. 27 of those are with the Kraken, so that's also really cool. Really not much else to say, sort of a repeat-ish of the other Dallas game, but you know, I'm glad it was 3-1 instead of, what was the other one? 5-1, terrible. So that's a little bit better. And some good things like Capo Caco hitting high points. So gonna take that part as a win. And speaking of a win, that Vancouver Canucks game, what even was that game? This is another one where I'm like, I just don't even know what it was. Joey's second shutout of the season. We love that for Joey. Another fun game for Mikey Icemolt. Let me say that again. That was terrible. Icemolt.
That was something that I would say.
That's like those baking Icemalt's like these baking chocolate things.
Even though we've talked about how like it's Acemont, then you even told me it would be like it's like A, come on, the Canadian
No,
A.
Another fun game for Mikey. He got his 3rd goal as a Kraken and almost had another one in the 3rd. He actually hit the post, so that was pretty exciting. His forechecking was incredible in this one. He also was kind of being a pest, which I kind of loved. He's bringing constant pressure. He's just really fun to watch. The more he's, I think, becoming comfortable on the team and with his line mates, I think it's been really fun to watch. I'm also liking how the Kraken are starting games right now. They're taking forever to get going, and that's kind of refreshing because that was something they were doing, I feel like, for at least half the season. It was taking forever to get going. And I think this was 4 games in a row where they scored first. So I like that. I think patience also was key in this one. The Kraken waited for really good chances, but the difference is that they actually took the chances instead of pulling back or making a second or third pass. So some smart hockey, I think. Shane's goal was amazing. Stevie's goal was also incredible. And then Yanni Newman also not afraid to like go up against some of these big players and, you know, get into it. And I love that. You know, he almost got into a fight. He was ready to go. It didn't happen, but he was ready to go. So I like that with him. Gosh, I'm so glad he's up and we get to watch him play hockey. And then San Jose Sharks game, I mean, 5 goals on 13 shots for the Kraken. I don't know even what that is either, but it's amazing. Jared McCann scored 2 goals in this game, and that is the first time in 102 games that he did that. It's his longest drought since 2015 to 2019, the first 4 seasons of his career. And it was also was a 3-point night for him. So we were just talking about him, hitting those 20 goals. And so I'm just really, really happy for him to seem to be maybe, I think we've talked about maybe he did have an injury because he looks really different right now. Georgiev was chased out of the net and he looked really sad sitting on the bench. I always feel bad. Like he had his little ball cap on and his head down. And I'm like, this poor guy needs like a hug or something. But speaking of the bench, Jeff Camiello's speedy stick handoff to Berkey earned him the belt after this game. And they actually put that video up. I think it's on the Kraken website. That was really fun to watch too. And overall, the Sharks defense isn't good. Lots of holes in their defense, and the Kraken took advantage of it as they should, but that's not a given for the Kraken. So I was happy to see that they did take advantage of that. So 1 game happened as expected, and 2 games were just really freaking fun to watch. So I can't complain at all about these games.
Yeah, when it comes to these 3 games, the the Stars game is the stereotypical type game. You can totally see the difference between the 2 teams. Dallas is a Stanley Cup contending team. The Seattle Kraken aren't. So expected exactly what we got. 3-1. Yeah, there was some promise there. Grubauer had a better game than he normally has. Unfortunately, it doesn't get the win, but it is what it is with where we are right now in the season. Really not much to dissect in that game. The other 2 games, though, it makes me laugh because where were these performances, at any other time of the year? It's just like, you get eliminated from playoff contention and, all that pressure's off. And then all of a sudden you start winning and scoring those goals and getting the points that you don't want. And I think that's the best way to kind of put it. So the Vancouver Canuck game, statement win because in a weird way that's a rival but not really a rival, so to speak. Like you mentioned, Heather, like Mikey Asimont, I really like him. He's going to be a UFA this season, and I think he really does fit the criteria in that mold of like a Yanni Gord, Brandon Tanev mix. So like you put him on that 4th line, he can do something there. He definitely contributes both physicality and on the scoreboard. So, and he's going to be cheaper. That's what I like about him. So hopefully the Kraken are looking at extending him, in the off season because he's definitely someone that you want to keep, moving forward. Shane Wright, 18 goals on the year now. He's going to hit 20. I'd be shocking at this point if he doesn't. So, another great, fantastic, really fantastic rookie season for him. I know he's not going to be able to, he's not going to get any votes in the Calder because he doesn't qualify for it this year, but he's had a fabulous first season, full season with the Kraken. And then Joey Decord is just being Joey Decord. I've said this multiple times. If Joey played on a team like on a playoff team, he'd probably be one of the best goaltenders in the league. He already is, but I think he would have Vezina votes. But because his record shows something completely different, you can't even consider that. So unfortunately, that's where we're kind of at as Kraken fans. But Joey just continues to do Joey things, and you can't really complain about that. Going to the Sharks game, ironically, I fell asleep in this game. So, maybe the Kraken, maybe I just need to fall asleep and the Kraken will win. I'm going to try that next year, maybe. I don't know. But Jared McCann, 20 goals on the season. Heather, you kind of mentioned it too. Injury, you kind of wonder if he did have an injury because he just didn't seem like he had it this year at the start of the year and for most of the season. And the fact that he's got 20 goals on the season, 58 points on the year, he's really figured it. I think he's really been able to figure out his game as not just a goal scorer because he has 38 assists. And normally he's not that type of player. Mainly we've seen him, especially with the Kraken, we've seen him with like 30 plus goals, 20 assists here and there. So the fact that he's been really contributing as an assisting type player this year, as a playmaker, you can't complain about that. And then I love the way that Jaden Schwartz has really come alive. 24 goals this season. Like, who is this man? Like, I just kind of wish that he stayed healthy his entire tenure as a Kraken because you just kind of wonder. Like, he's going to be that type of player that you're probably going to be trading off at the deadline next year, unfortunately, as long as he stays healthy. Uh, but it's been a great season for him, and I hope we still have enough games, so let's see what he can do. Let's hit 30. Why not? Let's just have some fun. But yeah, going back to the whole thing, I don't know what it is with the Kraken, just winning games when we don't want to win games.
Yep.
I hope they go over my 76 point prediction, because at the end of the day, I don't want that to be a thing. But finish the season with 78 points. I'm happy with it. We'll still get a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
We're not going to get those top 3 picks anyway. So and after that, it's going to be kind of interesting. So, is there anything else that really that you spotted out in these last couple of games between
I mean,
players?
I keep thinking about Jaden Schwartz. When they got him, everyone was so excited, and then he was almost immediately injured, and so I didn't get it because I, was not super familiar with hockey and especially not specific players. But when he does things like this, it's like, oh, that's why everyone is so hyped on him, and I get it because he's so solid when he does have those stretches of consistency and when he's not injured and not unhealthy. So I'm glad for him though, because I do think that he's a good presence on the ice too. He's calm and stable, and I like that for the team too. But yeah, Jaden Schwartz just having an incredible season, I think.
You bringing up Jaden Schwartz potentially being traded away at next year's deadline makes me very, very sad, because I probably this week have a Jaden Schwartz reverse retro jersey coming to my mailbox. So that's wonderful. And I think as well, when Heather talked about him being calm and stable, I have a feeling that when Ebbs was out for those 40 games, he really stepped up and was part of the unofficial actual captain. Maybe I'm just making that up and trying to put that out there, but that's definitely something that I thought as well.
I have another question, because I think this one's going to be a little interesting, because I feel like when we've talked about off season, one of the players we've spoken about being a bio candidate, and most likely a bio candidate, is going to be Philip Grubauer, just with the contract, just the way that he's been playing since he's signed the contract. Another player up for discussion has been Andre Burakovsky. 74 games played this season, 10 goals, 25 assists for 35 points on the year. He's kind of figured it out in the last 10, 20 games, I would say.
He has.
And playing on the line with Shane Wright, surprisingly, because I know both of us have criticized, why in the hell is, is Shane Wright playing with Andre Burakovsky, but it's worked out. Now, in a weird way, do you wonder, because I know possibly a trade candidate in the offseason, but has he possibly saved himself to maybe play on that third line, second line, fourth line with Shane Wright, if he sticks around on the third, second line next season?
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard. It's so hard because for so many games he was either invisible or he just didn't want to take the shot, right? How many times did he button hook? And we were like, why is he doing that? Why is he not taking these shots? And I don't know what was going on. Was there a mental block there? Was he just in his head too much? And now because the pressure's off, because after the trade deadline, Berkey's different. He's just a completely different player, to be honest. So it's after that, was it just too much pressure and he thought he'd be traded and he thought, things would happen and it was just really wearing on him? Was he paying too much attention to critics? I mean, I'm sure you try not to pay attention on social media and in the articles and everything, but he had to have been hearing or seeing some of it. So was that playing into it too much? And now he's like, well, pressure's off. I'm at least here through the end of the season and now I can play. Can he take that into another season? If he can, I'm fine with him staying. I don't have anything against Berkey personally at all. I just was so disappointed in his lack of shooting and lack of scoring when everyone just, raved about him so much. And he was supposed to be this great player that was going to come in and score a bunch of goals. And then so I don't know. I don't know what will happen. I mean, I do think Grubauer is the obvious buyout. I still think that's going to happen. No knock against Grubauer whatsoever from any of us, but I think that's just the reality of it. I'm glad he's playing well now because that helps. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about Berkey's. I mean, to me, he's almost like a complete just conundrum for me because I just don't know. I don't know what to do with him or about him.
Yeah, it's very complicated. I was looking at his stat line since he signed with the Kraken. So in 22-23, he had 39 points in 49 games, and that's when the injuries started. Last season, he played in 49 games and had 16 points. This year, like I said, it's 74 with 35 points. So he's almost tied his season high in points with the Kraken, but in a lot more games.
Yeah. Mm.
But part of me is starting to warm up to him again. And
Mm-hmm.
it's very odd to say because I've been very critical of him,
Yeah.
being like, the amount of money he's making, he needs to contribute more, and he has. It's just been in a different way. So I don't know. Do
Yeah.
you give him that next year? Because like at the end of the, you if you do buy out Grubauer, you're gonna have, I think it's what is it, Berkey for 2 more years at
Mm-hmm.
like five or
Yeah.
something around that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Like he's one of the guys that I'm kind of like, do you most likely what I'm kind of seeing is that you're going to give him the opportunity and he's going to play at least until the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And if he's playing well and the Kraken are in a good position, they're probably going to keep him. If the
Mm-hmm.
Kraken are not doing well and he's doing well, you might trade him for, a good return. And I think that's where the Kraken are probably looking at this.
Yeah.
But I definitely would say give him the opportunity next season. It might not be with Shane Wright. I think Shane Wright's earned himself even top line minutes next year. I think we
Yeah.
could easily be looking at a Shane Wright, Chandler Stevenson, Matty Beniers third line type
Mm-hmm.
look because I think Shane Wright's been playing as a bona fide first line center, and this year he's really taken that. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see where Mr. Burakovsky plays next year, if it's in Seattle, or if it's not.
I think I'm warming up to him too, though, just because he has, like I said, after the trade deadline, he's played completely different, and I like it. I like
Yeah.
how he's playing, and it's fun to watch him. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm leaning towards your opinion of let's give him this next season at least until the trade deadline and see. And I kind of feel that's what the Kraken will do, just because I think because they've shaken so much up for them. Maybe it's not but for them, they've shaken a lot of things up. And I think we'll see more over the offseason just of different players that are going to come in and, the goalie situation. So I think maybe that would be a consistency thing also to keep Berkey. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. He confuses me.
Yeah. The other player that I was thinking about is Chandler Stevenson because I know
Mm,
he gets a lot of hate both on
yeah.
on online and just from anybody word of mouth. But 50 points on the year, I really can't really complain
Nope.
with
Me either.
that. And I think my biggest thing that I would bring up is everyone has criticized Beniers, rightly
Mm,
so, but he's got 41 points on the year.
yeah.
Stevenson's
Silently
got
racking him
50.
up.
Yeah, but Stevenson's got 50. So my biggest one is like, yeah, Stevenson's making less
Mm, yeah.
and he's playing a much more rounded game.
Yeah. Yeah, I really
So
don't have complaints for Stevenson this season. I mean, I know everyone has, but I just think he's been silently there. He's smart, he makes good plays. His passing is I think some of the best on the team, if not the best on the team.
yeah,
And I think, he's just gotten the raw end of the deal because everyone was so shocked by the terms of his contract. And I
yeah.
get that. I get that. But, now, like we've said, down the line, when the cap goes up, this isn't going to look quite as bad. Now, year 6 and 7, maybe even year 5, probably we're going to be a little bit upset about. It's going to be a little thorn in our side for sure. But otherwise, this season, no complaints on Stevie. None.
Not at all. And I think coming next year, the year after, I don't think we're going to have an issue with that.
Mm-mm.
Like you kind of said it, year 5, 6, 7 is when
Mm-hmm.
we're going to start talking about
Yeah.
it. But maybe at that point, he won't be our problem. Maybe
Yeah.
he's at that point, you know, dealing with injuries. We don't really know. We're not fortune tellers. We can't tell what's
Mm-mm.
going to happen, all that. I wish
No.
we did because then we would know if the Kraken were going to make the playoffs next year. But
This
yeah,
podcast would be a
honestly,
lot different if we could.
could you imagine just being like, yeah, the Kraken are going to win in 28, 29, and everyone's like, no, you're not. I'd be like, yeah, I already put money on it. Being like,
We
yeah,
know.
we know. But yeah, no, I got no problem with Stevenson. I think Maddie needs to step it up a little bit more,
Yeah.
but I think this year is a year for learning and growth, and I think
Hmm.
let's hope
Yeah.
everybody will be ready to play next year.
Yeah. If they take what they're doing now and just grow on it in the off season, then I think we'll start off strong. maybe these are famous last words for me, but I'm hoping that we start off strong and, make a better show of things to kick the year off, because that was having a slow start to the season, really, it was, completely detrimental to any sort of playoff run or season, really. So if they can take this and what they're doing now and how they're gelling and how they're playing and maybe just play loose, I think that was a big success in the second season too, was playing more loose and fun. If they can do that, then I think we're in a good position.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what we're seeing now post trade deadline is what I believe is what management saw in
Hmm.
this team and said,
Yeah.
this is what this team can do. So it takes a lot of questions off the board when it comes to the offseason.
Yeah.
Because I know there was discussion, not within the ranks of media, but a lot of fans asking if, what is the coaching staff safe? Is management safe? Like,
Right.
we don't know. And I think what we're seeing now is coaching is probably safe. Management is definitely safe.
Yeah.
Ownership wants this to be a retooling, not a rebuild. We're going to probably be looking to trade away some draft picks to get some players in, and we're
Yeah.
probably going to sign a couple players. So it's going to be an interesting offseason.
Yeah.
But I think what we've been able to see, especially since the deadline and since we've been officially knocked out of the playoffs, is okay, this is the plan for the team. This is what they're doing. And at least we have that. We're not going into the offseason being like, what are we? Are we traders? Are we
Yeah.
rebuilding? Are we
Yeah.
retooling? What are we? We know exactly what we're doing. We're going to try to fit pieces in where we know we can. We're going to ship players off if it's suitable for us. And I think we're going to I think we're going to go for a high end player,
Yeah.
either by trade or by signing
Yeah.
in the offseason. I just don't know who it's going to be.
They need to. I don't know who either, but they really need to. We need that person who's going to go out and score just every game. I mean, it just is what it is. I hate to say that, but that's just the reality of it. We need that. We haven't had it. And, when people like Jared McCann don't play like we kind of expect them to play, which is terrible to say, but when they don't, it really hurts the team overall, because he was sort of that guy. And like we said, maybe there was an injury we don't know about. Maybe at the end of the season, we'll find out it was like Jordan Eberle playing with a broken hand last season at the start. It could be something like that. We don't know. We don't know.
Oh,
But
for sure. But hopefully we get that player who can score. Will
Mhm.
be that decision, that game like that player that makes a difference in the game.
Yeah.
No matter what the score is or whatnot. Because we are 2 goals away from having 4 players hit 20 goals this
Yeah.
season. So
Yeah.
that would be exceptional. But if you had that player that could, really make an impact, score 30, 35 plus,
Yeah.
like kind of what McCann was doing in his first 2 years, 3 years,
Exactly.
different team. Because
Yeah.
if you have all those, secondary scorers, and then you have that, 35 plus goal scorer, game changing. I
Yeah.
still think that Shane Wright could score 30 next year. And I
Yeah,
think
I agree.
we're going to see McCann score 30, 35
Mhm.
again. It's going to change.
Yeah.
And I think a full year of Capo Caco
Mhm.
is another thing as well.
Yeah. And those three in particular showing up that way means a completely different season.
It really does. It's incredible when you look at this team and you go, okay, if we had, and this is not an attack on Grubauer, but
Mhm.
if we had a backup who had a record of 10 plus wins, 10, 12 wins, and not
Mhm.
almost 20 losses,
Yeah.
that's you're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
If we had, if Jared McCann wasn't injured or
Mm.
figured it out early,
Mhm.
that's a 30 plus goal scorer right there.
Yeah.
That's a difference maker. If Jordan Eberle doesn't destroy his pelvis,
Yeah.
that's
Exactly.
that's a whole different conversation in itself.
Yeah.
If Matty Beniers figures it out, if Shane Wright gets more ice time, like
Mhm.
it's there's so many what ifs to this season. Like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, we're ending the season with another year of no playoffs. But I think the more I've taken a step back and just kind of
Mhm.
watched the games and just been
Yeah.
like, okay, no criticizing, just watch the games.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
very much more like there's talent here.
Mhm.
We just have to let it develop properly and
Yeah.
not rush them.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping the retooling isn't that type of a rush,
Yeah.
and I hope they play it smart. But at the same time, I totally understand where they're coming from now.
Yeah. We have more answers at the end of this season than we did last season. Last season, it was still like what's wrong? I don't know. They were all
Who's
saying
gonna,
that. I don't know.
who's going to be the captain? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's probably Jordan Eberle, but we don't know.
I don't know. I mean,
So,
every press conference was, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know
yeah.
what's going on. I don't know what we could do.
Well,
I
yeah,
don't like those answers. But
we didn't know
this,
how to communicate.
nope. I feel like
So,
this is better. We have more
yeah.
answers this season.
And it's a lot better even from halfway through the season. We're halfway through the season, we were like, well, we might make the playoffs, but we already know we aren't.
Yeah,
And the
exactly.
team was like, well, we could. We're like, no, we're not making the playoffs. Just start trading off your assets. And now we're here being like, we know exactly what we need to do.
Yep.
So let's go out and do it this offseason and let's figure it out, because I think a lot of us are looking at next season already. We're kind of we've already put this season to bed. We're like, okay, bring on, the 25-26 season.
Yep.
And let's party.
Yeah, 100%.
This NHL season has been as predictable as a puck rolling on its edge. No one knows where it's going, but that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out and games left for you to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you are new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
Now we're going to go south to the desert with the Coachella Valley Firebirds in our desert dialogues. So Wednesday, April 2nd, against the San Diego Gulls, the Coachella Valley Firebirds lost 3-1. This was Nick Brouillard's 300th AHL game. He's a journeyman in the AHL. Sort of a low event game overall, but also a closer game than the score would show, because the third goal from the Eagles was an empty netter. It was in the third that the Firebirds finally got on the board. That goal belonged to Edward Chalet with an absolute snipe. I totally butchered that name, and I'm probably going to get a 0-star review off of that, but here we are. This was Chalet's 6th of the season with an assist from Ian McKinnon and Mitchell Stevens. Unfortunately, the Firebirds were 0 for 4 on the power play, so showed some signs of Seattle Kraken magic with that one, but
Yes.
It is what it is.
And then they played Friday, April 4th at the Henderson Silver Knights. This was a 3-1 win. It was sort of a reverse score of the last game. Firebirds won this second game of the week. Silver Knights scored first, but that was their only goal. So no problem there. Late in the third, Nick Brouillard had 2 goals just 38 seconds apart, which is incredible. It was like barely time enough to drop the puck again. Those were his 6th and 7th goals of the season. The first was assisted by Ryan Winterton. That was his 19th assist of the season, and by Charlie Wright. The second was assisted by Brandon Bureau. That was his 28th assist, and Ben Myers his 24th assist. So these players are just racking up these points, sort of silently too, which I'm just loving kind of keeping track of each week. David Goyette scored late in the second, and that was the end of the scoring in this game. The assists on that one were from Max Lajoie. That was his 33rd assist, and from Mitchell Stevens.
The next game was yet again against Henderson Silver Knights on April the 5th, and that was a 4-1 loss. Silver Knights just took over in this game. No score in the first period from either team, but the Silver Knights scored twice in the second. Then late in the second, Ryan Winterton scored the only goal of the game for the Firebirds, his 18th of the season. So, a little salty from being sent back down to Coachella from Seattle. He decided to take vengeance out on the Silver Knights and scoring the only goal for them. It was assisted by David Goyette and Charlie Wright, not associated with Shane Wright, just a different Wright in itself. And the Silver Knights scored twice more in the third. And that was basically this game in a nutshell. All Silver Knights and no Firebirds.
Little piece of news, the Firebirds signed forward Ollie Josephson to an amateur tryout agreement for the remainder of the 24-25 season. Ollie is 18 years old and he's been playing with the Red Deer Rebels in the WHL. In his season this year, he's had 14 goals and 21 assists for 35 points in his 48 games played. He was drafted by the Kraken in 2024. He was a fourth round pick at 105 overall. So I'm excited for these players to come up and get to play. It's going to be really fun. And speaking of that, if you do want to watch some Firebirds this week, they play Wednesday, April 9th versus the San Jose Barracuda, Saturday, April 12th versus the Bakersfield Condors, and Sunday, April 13th versus the San Diego Gulls. Our top Firebirds this week, we have Ben Myers with 46 points in 52 games played, Logan Morrison with 40 points in 66 games played, and Max Lajoie with 37 points in 65 games played.
And we are going to be talking about the AHL standings. Side note, Matt, I want you to add a caca to this. The Coachella Valley Firebirds have officially clinched a playoff berth as of Sunday, April 6th. Caca!
I'm just kidding.
They're fourth in the Pacific Division with 79 points and their 67 games played. The teams joining them in the playoffs will be the Colorado Eagles, the Abbotsford Canucks, and the Ontario Reign. So, if you are a Seattle Kraken fan and you are sad because, hey, there's no Kraken in the playoffs, you're in luck because the Coachella Valley Firebirds are going to be in the playoffs. And if you haven't witnessed them over the last couple of years, they are an absolute wagon when the playoffs come to town. So, if I were you, watch the Coachella Valley Firebirds. They're fun. They're electric. Yanni Newman is going to be there. Cale Fleury. You're probably going to see some new players come up. Berkeley Canton might show up, pending what happens in the WHL playoffs.
The Fisker Molgard.
The Morgard. It's going to be some electric, fun stuff. So if I were you, definitely get on that bandwagon because it's going to be a blast.
And check it's through Flow Hockey, but check because last couple seasons they've done a really great deal where you could just get the playoffs and watch that, and totally worth whatever it is. But I don't think it's terribly expensive. But if they do that, just keep an eye out for it because it's such a great deal and you get to watch all the playoff games.
And that'll take us to the sound table. A sound table is our weekly recap of all things outside of the Kraken organization in the hockey world. Starting off with the obvious big news item this week, the Great Chase has finally reached its conclusion as Alexander Ovechkin secured the all-time NHL goal-scoring record on Sunday afternoon against the Islanders. The goal came in the second period on the power play when Ovechkin blasted it past Ilya Sorokin, securing Ilya's place as a future Jeopardy question. It's worth noting, Ovi had 2 goals on Friday against the Blackhawks and had the chance to break the record with an empty net goal, but it was revealed after the game that he turned to coach Spencer Carberry and said that he did not want to score on the empty net. He wanted to break the record on a goaltender in the crease. Perhaps the most important part of this record-breaking achievement is that Joey Daccord remains as one of the very few active goalies who have never surrendered a goal to Alexander Ovechkin in the 4 games he has played against him in his career.
To even say that we've witnessed Wayne Gretzky's goal record being broken in our lifetime is truly shocking and incredible in itself, because that was a record that everyone said was going to stand the test of time. Nobody was going to be a goal scorer like that. And here comes Alexander Ovechkin. Not only does he tie Gretzky's record in one less game, he breaks it in the same amount of games played as Ovechkin, as Wayne Gretzky. So in itself, it's wild to say that happened. Now, the crazy thing about this is that it's already being discussed on who's going to break it next. And it's not like, in 20 years' time, someone's going to come up. There's been discussions that, Austin Matthews could be the next one to break Ovechkin's record. So it just shows you the level of skill in the NHL nowadays when it comes to goal scorers. The fact that we're already discussing the fact that, Austin Matthews might come along and break this record is truly astounding. It's just crazy stuff. And just to note, especially what Matt just mentioned, Joey Daccord, 895 goals have been scored by Alexander Ovechkin. Joey Daccord is not one of those goaltenders. So 4 games played against Ovi, and he's still, batting 1,000. So positive stuff right there. Joey remains supreme.
That's actually my favorite part of the whole story, if I'm being totally honest, is that Joey came away unscathed in this whole thing. I love that for him so much because it is such a huge milestone. And to be like, I am one of, I'm sure there's a few others, but one of the only goalies that he did not score against is absolutely insane because that's so many goals and so many opportunities for it to happen. And just the fact that he didn't, I love it. I know I know he got quite a few kind of empty net goals here at the end, but still the feat itself is really impressive. And I feel like, the celebrations too have been fun to watch. As soon as he scored that, I guess the record goal, really, everybody just stopping and being able to celebrate. It's one of those things that kind of goes beyond the records of the games and goes beyond like teams because it's hockey as a whole. And I really like that about it. So it's been fun for all of us to kind of watch throughout the season too, something we've sort of all gathered around. And I like that as well. It goes beyond teams and all of that because it's just such a cool feat to see. And we're seeing it in our lifetime. That's also cool.
Yeah, rivalries aside, hate or love the player, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The fact that he was able to, break such a record, like that's just incredible. And being able to witness that, like Heather mentioned, in our lifetime is truly spectacular. Going back to Joey, I'm going to make this about a Seattle Kraken player because
Yes.
we are a Seattle Kraken podcast. I just think that's amazing. I really just want to highlight like the fact that Joey's played 240 minutes against Alexander Ovechkin and not let in a goal by Ovi is spectacular. Like that goes on a resume. I don't care. It goes on a resume. So yeah, kudos to Alexander Ovechkin, but also kudos to Joey Decord.
Mostly kudos to Joey Decord.
Yeah, just Joey. Straight up Joey.
Just Joey.
The Stanley Cup playoffs continue to take shape with more teams securing their places. The teams who are locked in are Winnipeg, Washington, Dallas, Vegas, Colorado, Carolina, Toronto, and Tampa Bay. And there are currently 7 teams who are eliminated, with Anaheim, Boston, and Philadelphia joining the list that started. Talking about Capitals again, there was a wild finale to last week's game between the Capitals and the Hurricanes. In the final 7 minutes of the game, the two teams combined for 114 penalty minutes. Perhaps what was more impressive was the official rattling off all the penalties absolutely flawlessly from memory. Kudos to that guy. After the Four Nations face-off, the St. Louis Blues started having a Jobu bobblehead from the movie Major League appear in their locker room. Since this little figurine was introduced, the Blues have gone on a major streak. They have a record since the tournament of 18-4, and this weekend they set a franchise record with 12 straight wins, with the previous record set in their 2018-2019 Cup winning year. And now to conclude, it is milestone time. Seattle Kraken public enemy number 2? 3? We talked about this the other day, but I can't remember where he falls. Anyway, Cale Makar has become the 9th defender in NHL history to record 30 goals in a single season, the first to accomplish this feat since 2009. And there's one more Alexander Ovechkin milestone as well. Following Friday's game against the Blackhawks, Ovi set the record for most game-winning goals in NHL history at 136, passing Jaromir Jagr. And that will conclude this week's Sound Table. Heather, would you like to let the folks know what our week ahead looks like?
I would love to. So the Kraken actually continue their road trip, and they are playing Monday, April 7th at the LA Kings with a 7:30 start, Tuesday, April 8th at the Utah Hockey Club with a 6 p.m. start, Thursday, April 10th at the Vegas Golden Knights with a 7 p.m. start, and Saturday, April 12th at the St. Louis Blues with a 7 p.m. start. And with that, Matt, do you want to let the people know where they can find us online?
First of all, make sure you sub to our YouTube. We have live streams that happen every once in a while. We'd love to have you come by and have a chat with us during one of those. Just check out at BTWSEA on YouTube. Check out the store, bit.ly/BTW store, for all of your Beneath the Waves merch. We have the Monty Mania design, we have the Joey Decord logo, we have the Price is Right, and we have Beneath the Waves gear as well. So whatever you need, we have a wide variety of products and designs. Go by the store, bit.ly/BTW store, and give that a look. And lastly, please drop a 5-star review and a follow on the podcast app of your choice. We love getting your feedback and hearing what you like about the show. Helps give us some guidance on where we are going forward. So we would love to hear from you. Again, wherever you find your podcast, be that Spotify, Apple, iHeart, whatever it is, drop a review. 5 stars would be wonderful. And lastly, if you want to keep in touch with us anywhere out in the social media spaces, you can do that at BTWSEA. That is BTWSEA. One more time, at BTWSEA. That is for your Twitter, your Blue Sky, your Instagram, your TikTok, your YouTube, all those places. We hope to see you there. And we hope to see you next week when we are back in your feeds again.
Going.